chimney, which is about 4 foot, and stack it very neatly over there. And that evening, I went back to my deck and I was just sitting there, and I knew I wanted to find out why we had moved that little bit of wood. And all of a sudden I saw this serpent come back up at the heel. And it had to be at least 6 foot long. To me, it looked like it was 24 foot long because I don't like snakes. And that snake came back to where it was, to its house. And it looked, and it didn't find its house. So it turned around and went back over the heel, and I never saw it again. And it was as if the Spirit of God spoke to me, and he said, "You found its hiding place. It was hiding there. Now that you found its hiding place, it will not return to that place." So many times when we don't understand nor do we comprehend that we have to find out what affects our life, and generally it's a spirit. And if you don't discern the spirit, and you don't find the spirit, and you don't name the spirit, it'll always have control over you. When you begin to realize that this serpent or this spirit is controlling you, you have to go all the way to the foundation or to the root of the problem. For instance, have you ever noticed yourself being upset over no reason? Have yourself really upset about problems and things start going wrong all of a sudden and you don't know what's happening? What you need to do is go back and say, now, who was I with? What were we doing? And when did my spirit change? It works in finances. It works in health. It works in prosperity. It works in every part of your life. When that little tiny spirit comes in and irritates you or changes you, it will continue to change you. And your spirit will fall under subjection a little bit at a time, and then it'll get to where you can't control it. If you notice something going wrong in your life, this should be your question. When did this start going wrong? What happened and who was I with? And when you begin to deal with these three things, the first thing you'll begin to say to yourself is, I was with so-and-so, or I was at this place, and things started going wrong. Somehow, and a spirit attached itself to you, and it began to whisper and change. And you have to find the very root of that problem. You have to go back to the very foundation. Illustration. When Paul and Silas were in jail, the Bible said they were in jail and that one prayed and the other sang. And the Bible said that the Spirit of God moved in that jail, and it was torn apart to the very foundation. You can't tear a building down completely until you get to the foundation. You can take one of these walls in my study here, and you can tear the wall out and it won't affect the building much. But if you go down to the foundation of this building and rip that foundation apart, the building will start falling apart. We've been taught, especially in Pentecostalism, no matter what's affected you, we'll just pray for you, lay hands on you, and that solves the problem. That doesn't solve the problem. It's like putting Band-Aids on a cancer. You have to go back to where that thing started, and you have to find out where it's living so you can destroy its home. Have you ever just had a thought, an idea, when people are around you? If you get around certain people, they will affect your spirit. Have you ever been around people that were hateful or mean, and the next thing you know, you were hateful and mean? You picked up their spirit. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem we have. We think we can go back to that person and change them. Here's something you need to know. You will never change anybody. Until they want to change, they will never be changed. And as long as they have an excuse, well, that's just me, that's the way I am, I'm never going to change, you can work until hell freezes over, and you're not going to change them. If you notice things in your finances starting to fall down, what you need to say is, what was I doing? Did I quit paying my tithe? Did I quit giving my offerings? Did I quit being compassionate? there's a spirit that's got into that thing that's causing it to go the way it is. And what you have to do, get your checkbook out and see when your finances started falling off and say, who was I with? What did I do? What did I do different? Because that spirit somehow has got a hold of you. I would that all the spirits that we fight, I see so much on Facebook when I put stuff on there, everybody comes back and they're testifying, right? And they say, well, the devil and 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 the devil. Some of these spirits just don't come from devils. They just come from people that are spirit possessed and don't even know it. If you're having trouble in your home, if you're fussing and complaining about everything, stop for a minute and go back and say, where did I get in contact with the spirit? Some of you, as the older you get, the more you become your mothers and fathers. Because Daddy used to say, we'd say, why can't we do that? Because I said so. Well, and because I'm your daddy. And that was it. Some of you have got that same spirit. We have to go back and say, I need to find out where this started going wrong. And if you don't get to the foundation of it, you will never be able to destroy it. Once you discern where that thing started, then you can stop it. But until you know where it came from, until you know its origin, you can't stop it. Look at Judas. Judas was the devil. Jesus said he was the devil. But do you know all through the scriptures nobody else knew that? Peter, Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of them preached with Jesus. But Jesus was the only one that knew he was a devil. Even one time when a lady broke some oil or put some oil over Jesus' feet and took her hair and wiped it away, Jesus was upset, or Judas was upset, not because that she anointed his feet, but because she was going to take the oil that she was using was very expensive, and his spirit said, I could have made money on that. He was a thief. The Bible said he was a thief. Jesus knew that, but when they sat at the table at the Last Supper, this spirit had been prevalent all this time. They'd worked with him, they'd walked with him, they'd talked with him, and they never discerned the spirit. And when Jesus said, there's one of you that's going to betray me, and they all began to say, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. Jesus said, well, the one of you that's going to do it, you do it quickly. Because he knew. He said, the one that's going to betray me is going to kiss me. And Judas kissed him and betrayed him. And all the time Jesus knew that. It was the word of God. Somebody had to betray him, so it fell upon Judas to do it. But the other disciples sat there and had no clue. They saw his actions, they saw his reactions, and they never discerned the spirit of deceit that Judas had. When you begin to look at people and you invite them into your life and into your world, you're bringing their whole being into you. It would be nice if they were dressed in a red suit with horns and a pointed tail, so you could say, okay, that's the guy I don't need in my life. That's the guy I don't need in my life. And so many times our problem is that we only look for the bad spirits. We never look for the good spirits. When you begin to take in your life and you see people that you want to be like, that's because of the anointing of God that's carried them towards you. When I tell people all the time, and I can't make them understand this, if you want to be a singer, you get around the best singer you can get around, because that spirit will rub off on you. When negative spirits will rub off on you, also positive spirits will rub off on you. You can catch a negative spirit or you can catch a positive spirit. And when you start checking your life out and things start going wrong, there's a reason for that. Somewhere you cross that line. Pentecostal people never understand this, but there's a small, thin line between the Holy Ghost moving for you and the devil moving against you. And it's so small that it's like this. God said to pray for your enemies. When you pray for your enemies, that's God. But when you pray against your enemies, that's witchcraft. That's the spirit of rebellion. When you begin to rebel, you're not going to reap the good of the land. If you don't think spirits are easy to catch, watch the world we're in today. See the spirit of rebellion? Everywhere you go, people have got their flags, and there's nothing nice on them. They've got their little signs, and they're vulgar, and they're nasty. Someone started that. I often say many times when the people wanted to kill Jesus, and it was biblical that he had to die, I understand that. And it was biblical that somebody had to betray him because it was prophesied. But when they first started talking about Jesus, it was in closed rooms in a whisper. We need to get rid of him. He's coming against our religion. He's coming against our faith. He's coming against our government. And the whisper started. It was a little spirit in a small place started whispering, he's going to destroy us. But it wasn't long until it was in the streets. It wasn't long until that spirit began to add on to itself. Then it was in the streets. And when Jesus hung on the tree, it was so loud that they were crying, we don't want Jesus, give us Barabbas. Give us, we know he's a thief. We know the man's bad. But we would rather keep the bad in the world as to go with the deliverer of the world. And that's the way the rebellion starts. The rebellion starts off that spirit of rebellion. I know good, God-fearing Christian people that are Democrats and Republicans. And all of a sudden, they've switched over. Now they're just mean, hateful, crude people because that spirit got loose on us. There was a time when I grew up, we didn't despise policemen. Even as a teenager, the policemen were my best friends. I had a real fast car, and my brother had a fast car. My brothers had fast cars, and many nights we would drag race the policemen. They'd say, where you go, bro? We're going up on Jewel Ridge. I bet you I can beat you. No, you can't beat us. So we would drag race. We weren't afraid if something went wrong. We weren't afraid. There was no rebellion. We didn't rebel against every bit of authority. We're living in a land today where there's so much rebellion, but it didn't start today. It started years ago when people began to say, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to come against the police. Now we're going to come against the government. We're going to start burning the flag. It's just the spirit of rebellion. I'm not talking Democrat or Republican. I'm talking the spirit that's in the world today, the spirit of hate. People can't even talk to one anymore without hating each other and have their voice and opinion. And I'm here to tell you, it started in the small closed rooms of people that wanted to destroy people. Bill Clinton, one of our presidents, was caught burning the flag years ago. Started off simple. Now look who, everybody gets mad. They want to burn a flag. That's the spirit of rebellion. That's the spirit of rebellion. Our nation will never be saved until we get the spirit of rebellion out of it. And hell's counting on that. Your world will never be saved until you control your own spirit. When you begin to control your spirit, then you're going to see things happen in your world. If your finances are going down the tubes and you're working the same job with the same bills and you still can't pay them, something happened. You need to go back and see where that happened. You need to go back and see where that happened. Some of you get cars and you can get a new car in 6 weeks, it won't start. Because there's a spirit that's latched onto you somewhere, and you need to quit saying, well, it's that old Ford company, or it's that old Cadillac company, or it's that old... No, it's a spirit that latched onto you. I had some friends one time, and there was a spirit of destruction on those people so bad. You couldn't let them in the house, because everything they touched. We had a new Cadillac that was about a year old. I decided to take them to lunch one day, Sister Glenna and I did, and by the time we got to where we were going, the locks wouldn't even lock on my Cadillac. We had them to watch over our house, and we didn't know them that well, but because we were gone so much, we lived in the other in Tennessee, and every time we went back, the door was broke, the window was cracked, the water faucet was broke. This was a new build, the new place, and it was such a spirit of destruction. And everything they had, their cars had no windows in them. The headlights would just fall out of their cars. And I told Sister Glenna, They have a spirit of destruction about them. And since we couldn't change them, we had to pull away from them. There's some people you know that when they get around you, they're going to destroy your best piece of furniture. It's because they have the spirit of destruction on them. It's not really being mean. That spirit's just got a hold of them. And you have to find out where that spirit is, and then you have to say, wait just a minute, I'm not going to deal with that. By the same spirit, you can adapt yourself around people that have a good spirit. You ever been in a bad mood and got around folks that were always just happy and smiling, and they weren't putting on, they just had a happy spirit? The first thing you know, your spirit begins to be happy. Some of you are blaming, and this is one thing that gets to be, well, it's a generational curse. It's a generational curse. Well, if there's generational curses, why aren't there generational blessings? Because God said He'd bless us by the generations. He said, I'll bless you going in and you coming out. When we get around people that are constantly in trouble, trust me, until they go back and find where that spirit is, till they go back and find the foundation of that spirit and learn how to control it and stop it, they're never going to be happy. They're never going to have what they want. There's some people you can give them $1 million. And the first thing you know, they're going to be broke, got no car, bought no home, bought nothing. One of the ladies that I knew years ago, she got $86,000 in cash. She was living on welfare. She got $86,000 in cash. And you think, well, that's a lot of money. And it is. But the first thing you know, this same lady was broke, had nowhere to live. She bought one thing. She bought a car that was a straight drive with a clutch, if that'll explain some of that to you all. And the next thing you know, the clutch went out and she couldn't drive a car with a clutch to begin with. So she bought a car she couldn't drive. That's a spirit. Some people have spirits of self-destruction. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you go, they're their worst enemies. They get a job, they don't last long. Same pattern, 1, 2, 3. It's the spirit that's got a hold of them. It's the spirit that's got a hold of them. And when you get that spirit in your world, you have to stop and say, this is what you don't want to do. You want to examine everybody else. No, you have to examine yourself and start tracing your world back and say, when did that happen? When did that happen? When did I change so much that I don't recognize myself? Those spirits are so prevalent. As a young kid, you can get around people that are destructive. All they want to do is destroy themselves. If you don't watch yourself, you're going to be the same way. The first thing you know, you're going to adapt their spirit. You don't adapt their train of thought, you adapt their spirit. Some young people, all you hear them talk about, I'm never going to be able to amount to this, I'm never going to be able to do that, I'm never going to be able to do that. And you know what? That's a spirit. It's a spirit of self-defeat. And other young people will say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm made up my mind, I'm going to do this and that. If you get around positive spirits, you become positive. Most ministries in the pulpit today don't teach positive teaching. They don't teach you that you can be what you want to be. Well, there was a time when you could be. No, the time hasn't changed. The Spirit of God hasn't changed. The anointing hasn't changed. I'm not just a dreamer. I know a lot of dreamers, all they do is dream. But I'm a man that dreams and wants to see it come to pass. God is getting ready to say to some of us, where, why, and what. Where did you adapt it? Why did you adapt it? And what are you going to do about it? Or are you just going to let the Spirit steady? The longer you keep that Spirit, the more powerful it becomes. The longer you keep that Spirit, that state of mind, the most important thing that you have is your mind. It's the most important thing spiritually, and it's the most important thing naturally. When God speaks to you, now I've had God speak to me verbally about emergency things that I had to do quickly, but I've also had Him come to my mind in a thought. I've had Him come to my mind in a thought. And He would say, with this thought, do this, do that. Before God ever dealt with your body, He dealt with your mind. He dealt with your thoughts. He dealt with the inside mind of your spirit. And then you have to say, well, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The heart of a man in the spirit is not in his flesh, but it's in his mind. How many times have you allowed thoughts in your mind to develop that spirit world? Before God ever dealt with your flesh, he dealt with your mind. When you begin to realize the spirit world and the spirit realm is something that needs to be dealt with, make sure you check someone's spirit. When you first meet them, don't wait. The first time you meet them, you have nothing to lose and nothing to gain. So ask God, are these people going to bring into my life, or are they going to take out of my life? People have a spirit of destruction about them. Some people are always thinking about, well, I'm just going to take my life. I'm just going to take my life. I'm just going to take my life. If you get around those people and you don't guard yourself, the first thing you know, you're going to be thinking, I need to take my life. Suicide is a spirit. Someone asked me one time if I ever thought about killing myself. I said, I'm not the problem. I've thought about killing other people, but I never thought about killing me because I'm not the problem. Some of you don't understand the little things that you let go will begin to grow. I would rather throw away an acorn as to cut down an oak tree. You need to start and stop right now and say, wait just a minute. Let me survey my land. Let me see what I've been thinking. If you begin to think when things start going downhill, that spirit wants you to think you can't solve it. It's hid itself. But when you discern where that spirit is, where you got it and where you've accepted it from, then you can begin to change that thing. There's no hiding place for a spirit from the saints of God. A spirit can't hide itself if you look hard enough. There's some people who have the spirit of murder on them. They'll just, I went one time many years ago, we were in Alabama in a revival. And this man called me and he said, my son wants to come and talk to you. And I'd been praying and fasting all that week, and all of a sudden I saw this man came in and he had a big machete stuck down in his boot. And I told Sister Glenn, I said, we need to pray. So the man brought his son over, and we had our travel trailer at the time, and he came in and sat down and he said, my son wants to talk to you about getting saved. I said, no, he doesn't. He said, what do you mean? I said, the boy don't want to get saved. Yes, he does. I said, no, he doesn't. I said, your son has accepted the spirit of murder. And I found out later he'd just been in Vietnam, and it's hard for those people to turn that off. We lost a lot of Vietnam veterans when they came back. We lost a lot over there, but we lost just as many over here. And I looked at his dad and I said, your son came to kill me. And his dad looked at me and was shocked and surprised. And I said, sir, I'm telling you the truth. And I said, he's got a machete stuck down his pants and his boot. And the boy began to weep and cry. And I looked at him and I said, am I telling you the truth? And he raised his boot up, or his pants leg up and his boot, and pulled that big knife out. He said, yes, sir. And we prayed with him. I don't know whatever happened to him, because it was up to him to loose that spirit. Loose that spirit. There's people that'll harm you if you don't discern their spirit. They'll not only harm you in the natural, they'll harm you in the spirit. There's so many people that constantly come to church and speak in tongues and praise God and shout, but they have a vile mouth on them. Their spirit inside is dirty and filthy. And while they're patting you on the back, they're trying to figure out a way to destroy you. And it's the spirit in them, and you can't change the spirit in them. And I hear some of you real Christian people say, I'll cast it out. You can't cast a spirit out of people that don't want it cast out. Please be real. Please be real. Be real. If a man doesn't want that spirit to go, it's not going to go anywhere. And God's trying to tell all of us, check ourselves out. There's a spirit of love that can get into you. It'll make you cry at times. It'll make you weep at times. There's a spirit that you can get around people. Have you ever got around people you just felt a lot of love? It's because they brought their spirit to that point. When you start looking into the spirit realm, you realize that everything comes from a spirit. Every habit, every problem, every trial comes from that spirit. Some of you are sitting and listening to me today, and some of you will listen later on. But I want to say this to you. Whatever is going wrong in your world, there's a spirit that's got involved in it. Well, I'm saved, sanctified, full of the Holy Ghost, blah, 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 blah. I know all that. But you can accept these spirits. They don't have to enter into you. They just come around you. They just get around you. And when these spirits get around you and you don't discern them, it'll begin to grow. Question: have you ever seen a time when you lost your temper for no reason? You know why? Because there was a spirit there, and it was forcing you to act and react. I thank God. I thank God for me and the way He's dealt with me. I don't let people run my spirit like a yo-yo. I don't allow them to raise it up, and I don't allow them to lower it. You don't have anything that you can say about me that'll make me mad. I just look at you and say, God, spirit of ignorance got on that person. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to allow you to push my buttons. If you control your own spirit, you make better decisions. You have a better life. There's a better atmosphere around you. When God begins to speak to you about spirits, you need to understand something. Every time that you get around people, every time that you get around people, you have the right and you have the chance of changing your spirit. I wish spirits would come in like a wind, but they don't. I've watched people, especially in the last few years of my ministry, I've watched people that were so calm on the inside, but the first thing you know, they were so vile and they were corrupt. They'd hit a spirit. They'd hit a spirit. Adultery is a spirit. I see some of these people going out, they're committing adultery with these ugly people. You know, if you're going to commit adultery, find you a good-looking person to do it with. Don't ever run around with ugly people. And here are these people, and you're looking at the man and the woman, and you're thinking, why? But it was a spirit. Rape is not about sex. It's a spirit of violence. It's a spirit of violence. If you don't think spirits are easy to catch, watch these guys in gangs. They begin to pull these young men in that are just as calm and happy and just everything going good. And little by little, they begin to draw them in. They begin to draw them in. And the next thing you know, they're on drugs. Next thing you know, they're raping people. Next thing you know, they're killing people. Next thing you know, they're robbing people because they allowed that spirit to seduce them. Many times, and none of us don't like to admit this, but it's true anyway. We have allowed people that we love to seduce our spirits into doing things that we shouldn't have done. And it wasn't the fact that it was them. That spirit was just so smooth. Just so smooth. Some of you parents that will watch this, you can say, I have the greatest kids in the world, and all of a sudden, something just happened. Everybody says, well, when you get a teenager, you become rebellious. That's not true. That's really not true. When you get around rebellious people, you become rebellious because of that spirit. Look at our nation today. Look at our nation. I saw a video of a lady the other day. She said, we want the world to continue, but we want to kill all the babies that are male. But we want the world to continue. And my question is, that's a good trick if you can do it. How are you going to do that? You know, males are pretty much essential in reproduction. She got that spirit. She got that spirit. I see people who say, and please understand, I don't care if you got tattoos on your tattoos. But they'll sit around and start talking about getting a tattoo. First thing you know, they got 2 or 3. The next thing you know, they got like $20,000 worth of tattoos on their shoulder. They ain't got enough money to buy a bottle of pop, but they got seduced. If you check your life somewhere, you're going to find out there was a spirit that seduced you. Maybe and hopefully it was a spirit of success. Maybe you got around somebody that had such a strong spirit that they changed you from what you are to what you need to be. When you deal in the spirit realm, then you deal in a world that is explainable. It is very easy to figure it out. But most people make it so complicated they can't comprehend it. So when you get around people, you judge who you're around. Some of you that are watching, the economy should never affect the salvation. And the economy should never affect Christian people because we'd have nothing to do with their economy. The Bible said, He bless you going in and you're coming out, you're lying down and you're rising up. When David died, Bible scholars say he was worth $100 million in today's standards. When his son died, they said he was worth over $1 billion in today's standards. They adapted that spirit. They had that spirit. David had brought the spirit of lust and the spirit of sexual things into his world. Solomon wrote the Songs of Solomon, and he said, I've had so much love, I don't want love anymore. He talked about sexual things in the Song of Solomon's that will put Playhouse and Penthouse to shame. He talked about the explicit sex things that he did. It was a spirit. Yet he was one of the wisest men. The Bible said, never been a man like him, never been one after him. But it was a spirit that seduced him. Do you not understand that Samson was seduced by a spirit? Samson was seduced by a spirit. It blinded him. They put oil on him, hot oil. It blinded his eyes. But there came a time when he said, I see my problem. Lord, forgive me. And he stood against a pillar in an arena and destroyed people. More people that day than any other time in his life. Because the Spirit of God will always be there. Listen to this statement as I close. If you let God, He'll always be there to take that thing away from you and take you to higher heights and deeper depths than you ever went to. Remember, please, please, please take your life unfolded and say, God, do it in private. Say, Lord, look, this is going wrong and that's going wrong and that's going wrong. When did I pick that spirit up? Where did I pick it up? Was it with a person or did I just pick it up? You see, spirits are interchangeable. Jesus said that He had an anointing. He said, the things that I have, I'm giving to you. That was a transfer of the Spirit. If there's a transfer of His Spirit, there's a transfer of other spirits. So let's make sure we get around people that carry a positive, blessed, godly spirit. I pray that. I want to pray for you tonight before I leave. And I want to ask God to visit us and give us the mind of the Spirit. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. God, I pray that you'll get a hold of every one of us. We'll be able to go back in detail and begin to see where things started going wrong and see where we picked that up. God, I pray that you let us discern the Spirit, see where they're living and what they're doing, and let us, Father, in your name, change this thing in our life, and we'll forever give you the honor and the glory. In Jesus' name. We're getting ready to do our new website. We're excited about that. We want you to go to our Facebook. This week, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. You have a chance to still get my Valentine's gift in. I'm looking for a Rolls Royce from somebody. I'd like to have the 87 Ghost, if you could get that for me, I would appreciate it. If it's going to be a few days late, that'll be fine. I'm going to ask you to send me your very best offering this week. You can go to our PayPal. Just look Reverend John D. Couch. Go to PayPal. You can. The best way, the easiest way, is to actually go to my website, and you will find donations on 2 or 3 different places. If you'll just click that donation, it'll take you right to my PayPal. You can figure in that amount, send it to me. If it's $25, fine. If it's $2,500, fine. Whatever you can do, I would appreciate it. If you don't want to use PayPal, you can send us a love offering to Post Office Box 28, Mountain City, Tennessee 37683. Post Office Box 28, Post Office Box 28, Mountain City, Tennessee 37683. I'll be looking for you next week. I have something powerful I want to speak to you about. I appreciate you visiting us. I appreciate your prayer for us. To those of you that have friends, please share this with them. You can ship it over to them by your email. You can ship it over to them by your Facebook. Any way you can do it, I would appreciate it. Those of you that are on Facebook, if you would share this and tell your friends to watch it, I would appreciate it. But I want to ask you tonight to remember us in your prayer. Remember us in your giving. Remember the tithes and the offerings. You know, the tithe go to the person that blesses you. They go into the storehouse. That doesn't mean a building. That means the person that ministers to you and helps you. I appreciate you and love you. And remember this, until we see you next week, if God hadn't been with you, you would not have made it this far. God bless you.